What is up, YouTube? This is Magician34 with today's edition of The Edge. And our tech card for today is actually a pretty exciting one for me, and I have to use the full art because it just looks so gosh darn good. And the tech card for today is Iris. She's a supporter, and she does, the turn you play her, she lets your active Pokemon deal 10 more damage to your opponent's active Pokemon, not their bench Pokemon, but to their active Pokemon for each prize card your opponent has taken. So we have the potential here to do 0 to 50 damage with this. Of course, we're controlling when we play it. It's by no stretch of the imagination an early game card, but it is a very nice late game card. So the idea is you run one, maybe two of these tops, and then you kind of play creatively to take full advantage of it. This card kind of echoes back to some older cards that had similar effects, but this one is pretty open-ended. So, with this in mind, I think one thing you got to consider is ways to use it is cards like, say, Dialga EX or Xerneas EX that need a little bit of extra oomph to score one-hit KOs. Even when you factor in cards like, say, Muscle Band here, Muscle Band still, 160 on Xerneas EX is not going to KO many EXs at all. And while Dialga EX will be hitting for 170 with his full metal impact, still, there are a lot of 180s that are going to be able to just slimly escape getting knocked out by your muscle-banded Dialga. But Iris needs very few prizes to have been taken for her to give either one of these guys, and a lot of cards in the same boat as them, like, say, Charizard EX, the ability to just straight-up one-shot knockout. And it's easy to have your opponent take a couple of early prizes during setup and whatnot. So by the time you get one of these guys powered up, you've almost always got a condition where Iris can, in many ways, function like an additional muscle band. And you might not think that's a big deal, but consider this. If you could equip 2 muscle bands, don't you think it would give you a big advantage? Exactly. And drawing cards with other supporters is important early game, so you don't play Iris early game for that, and of course the fact that she wouldn't be a big bonus early. But late in the game, your supporters often do very little for you, and so having a supporter that can do something else, like Lysander controlling your opponent's Pokemon, or Iris giving you a big attack boost, is pretty critical. Of course, discarding it early doesn't do you much good unless, of course, you're taking full advantage of Versus Seeker. And that's the idea, discarding Iris to, say, cards like Professor Sycamore or Juniper, respectively, Ultra Ball, things of that nature. Things that are going to give you a good chance to put her in there and let her just sit there as a resource for you. And of course, Lysander's Trump card could help you in that regard, too. But part of what makes me think about this card, as Primal Clash releases this week, is cards like this one right here. This Metacam, or Metacham, has the Omega Barrage, which allows him to attack twice, which means essentially he and other cards that have the same ability, like Nidoqueen in the new set, allow you basically to use Iris twice. So if this guy gets, like, say, a 30-point boost off of Iris, he's actually swinging instead of if he uses this attack twice, he'd normally do 60, but he's not just going to get a 30-point bonus, he'll get 30 points on 2 attacks. So essentially he'll hit for 120 damage. Not bad. Factor in that muscle band hitting twice, now you're talking about 160. Not too bad. Oh, but he is fighting. We could even put in a strong energy there, and now you're dealing 200 damage. It's easy to see where that can rack up. So, I think Iris could have some new possibilities as we look into this new set, and if Omega Barrage is an ability that we see in future sets beyond that, she could definitely find a home in a number of decks before we see possible rotation after Worlds this year. So, there's your tech card for the day, something to think about in your deck building. This card has placed at a few high-level events, but not many, so it's by no means a mainstream card. Like I say, food for thought. Feel free to like, comment, and subscribe to check out my channel for more cool Pokemon content.